It is the year 2472, and the Earth has suffered a great calamity. Hundreds of years of popular culture have vanished. Without the sacred films and texts for guidance, civilization is devoid of anything cool. Then, 3 incubation chambers are unearthed, and from within, men from the time of the great blockbusters emerge. Now, through highly interesting conversations, they share invaluable insight about what once was. The movies, the shows, the comics, toys, and books. This is
The Hyperspace.
Podcasting in the 25th century.
Welcome in, podcast pioneers, to the hyperspace. Podcasting in the 25th century, the interweb's first and still only podcast. My name is Jared.
My name's Matt.
And my name is Mike.
It's really cool to see where you guys live.
I've invited you over. It's your own fault for not coming over.
Well, I don't like to venture out amongst the rabble of the 25th century.
Taking my socks off.
I'm glad I'm not.
Comfort. It's your tube.
I'm glad I'm not at Mike's tube.
I got a nice view, though. I mean, I'm happy. I relocated not long ago. I got the better view.
Yeah, obviously. Well, my view's okay, but it appears to be a different time of day.
Well, I mean, I take the time tube over to you. I mean, you're what, 3 time zones over?
It's possible. I don't know. In the 25th century, it's all turned around and
Mike,
weird.
you look like you're in a Battlestar Galactica launch tube.
Well, I just was going to say I got a deal on mine because it was actually a place where they launched the missiles during the Great War.
Oh,
before the Great Calamity.
Yeah, so
That's fantastic.
pretty sure they scrubbed out all the radiation. So
yeah, I mean, probably the most.
we'll find out.
Yeah.
Not getting like 3 weeks, like a tooth falls out or something like that.
I'm getting used to it, though. I'm not going to lie. You know, the comforts of home are gone for me, you know, the metal stuff and, you know.
Wow.
I'm just kind of used to it now. It's fine.
Well,
I got my paste fridge over here.
your tube for your nutrient paste.
Yeah, I got a new flavor.
Oh, what's the new flavor?
It's kind of like it's X555-3, which I think is either papyrus or cardboard. But you know, it's better.
Okay.
It's better than the other stuff. But, you know,
Well,
I like the. I'm partial to the raspberry and cilantro.
Well, the last one I've tasted was just called the flavor of brown.
well, that was Avant-Garde. That was their Thanksgiving release. That was
Yeah,
pretty good.
It does taste vaguely like gravy. But anyway, Matt, what are we talking about this week?
You know, we're surrounded by all this new tech and all this fun stuff here, but it makes me think back to when I was a kid, growing up in the 80s, the late 70s and the 80s, and all the tech that we look back on now as being archaic, how cool it was when it came out.
Yes.
And I kind of want to go back and talk about some of that stuff. Like, it sounds ridiculous now when you hear about it, but for us as kids, some of this stuff was like cutting edge and like you had to have it.
Oh,
So,
yeah, it blew your mind. You're like, it cannot get better than this.
top of the world. So I'd like to just kind of see what you guys think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we get started, I did want to update the listeners. Last year we did a show about like comic books and comic book stores and stuff like that. And I said in that episode that one of my first memories of a valuable comic was Marvel's Conan #1. It was at Comics Inc. in Knoxville, Tennessee for $75. Unattainable. But I have attained it.
Really? No
I
kidding.
found an eBay auction, and I paid less than $75 for it.
Wow.
An eBay auction. The book is not in great shape. I mean, it's not ripped to shreds, but it's not graded or, anything like that. But
Right.
yeah, I went ahead and pulled the trigger on it. So
That's cool.
So it's
You know,
gonna be coming in the tube post here shortly.
That's pretty great. I mean, that's kind of like Kirk's reading glasses. That's how old it is for you right now.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
But,
several hundred years old at this point.
I think if I recall, that comic series was something that I wanted to revisit. And I got a link from one of you guys with all the Conan comics online.
Yeah, Mike sent that.
I haven't read it yet, but
don't throw me under the bus.
But it's funny. I just the other day was thinking about, like, where's that link? I want to start reading those. So it's funny that you mentioned the Conan comic, because I'm like, I was just thinking about, like, I want to make it a commitment to, like, power through as many as I can. And it's a lot.
A commitment to crush your enemies, see
Crush
them
your
driven
enemies.
before you, and to hear the lamentations of the women.
Such a good scene. I don't care. I know they took Arnold in that story and made it his own kind of Conan, but I love that movie. I don't care.
It's
That's
very
always
fun,
Conan for me.
and it's
That's
always
very cool. I can't wait to see that comic. You
yeah.
gotta,
Once
put that up as soon as you
once
get
it comes, I'll give you a look at it.
Yeah, definitely. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, without further ado, how about we just dive right in? Why don't we talk about some tech there, guys?
We're going to talk some tech.
IBM calls this a personal computer and says a person can afford it, yet it's over $1,500. Apple says computing is a revolution that can't be missed, but at $1,530 you could miss it. Atari says computers are now within reach. Well, the Commodore 64 has more built-in memory than the others, and it's under $600. So, while everyone else talks about the revolution that's coming, you can experience the revolution that's here.
Since you were the one who came up with this topic, why don't you lead us off? What was game-changing technology for you as a young man?
I remember when I was probably about 9, they had a Walkman, but it was a radio Walkman. It wasn't like even a cassette player. And it was like, it was big, it was silver, it was probably like a Sony or something. Sanyo, I don't know what they had back then. But that portable Walkman was like, I that's all I wanted was that. And I didn't know why. I was like 9 years old. What am I going to do with it? I'm not jogging. I'm not like going anywhere. I just wanted to have it because I thought that was the most amazing thing, that you could have this radio with you and these amazing headphones, and you go anywhere with it.
Yeah.
I never got it. I didn't get it.
You never got a Walkman?
Later on, I had several, but I didn't have that one. But like, I really wanted it because back when we were kids, newsflash, there was no Amazon.
Correct.
There was for me, there was the Service Merchandise Catalog, and let me explain to our listeners, if you're not familiar, how this worked. Service Merchandise every year, at least where I lived, came out with this massive catalog, and it had everything in it. I mean, it was a full one-stop shop department store, from jewelry to BB guns to toys to garden equipment, you name it, it had it. So every year it would come out, and of course, it had an amazing toy section, and it had good electronics and stuff like that. And this is kind of like where you saw stuff, at least for me. This is where I saw like all the new stuff, all the new consumer goods. Like, that's how I found it. So what you would do is you would get your order number from the catalog. You call Service Merchandise, and most people had one nearby. And you would call them, and then they would process your order. And then like a week later, you would go to the store and pick up your item. And that's how you shopped. And it was like catalog in-person shopping. And it was cool. And it worked really well. It was like Amazon Lite back in the day.
Proto-Amazon.
Total. But, and I got a ton of stuff from Service Merchandise as a kid. But
well, yeah, the catalogs, I mean, before the internet, that's how you saw the latest wave of He-Man figures.
Oh, my God.
Or Star Wars figures, or G.I. Joe. That's where you saw the new ones.
They did a great job, like with vignettes.
Yes,
they always had them styled perfectly, and like it was great. It
when I was
like
a kid,
white product shot.
Dream job would have been making those little vignettes.
That'd be one of the kids in the thing.
Oh,
yeah, yeah, the little kids playing in the diorama.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some great photography with those kids. But
I remember an hour just staring at that thing. You know, I wish I had that one. Oh,
you both had Service Merchandise nearby, right?
Well, I don't know if it was Service Merchandise. It was Sears was the one we always got.
It was probably the exact same kind of way, the way it worked.
Well, yeah.
Back then.
There was Mike. There was a Service Merchandise at Easttown Mall forever.
Yeah, I remember.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember. I finally bought something there, and it was I think it was an action figure, and it was so odd because I'm like, I want this one, and they went, okay, go to the conveyor belt, and we'll bring it to you.
Yeah, that's
and
right, the conveyor belt.
And I'm thinking,
weird.
Can I not just take this one?
Man, You know, in 1998, 97, Terry bought my wedding ring at Service Merchandise.
No kidding.
Because they sold jewelry as well.
Tons of jewelry, yeah.
So that's
that's amazing. Yeah, Service Merchandise was like a big part of like my kid youth when I was like, under 10 and just around like 10 years old. That catalog every year was like the best thing in the world. And you're right. Transformers and He-Man
yes.
and Star Wars and all the toys when they were released. You were waiting for the catalog to see like what was available, because that's really, I mean, unless you're going to Toys R Us all the time, that catalog was like the Bible for toys.
Service Merchandise was the first time I saw in person a Teddy Ruxpin.
It's kind of familiar that you say that, actually. It's kind of funny.
The cassette, it was the bear that talked. You'd put the cassette in and would go, ah, 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 ah. But for some reason, I'd seen commercials, and I thought it was like this magic robot that just talked to you.
Hi, my name is Teddy Ruxpin. Can you and I be friends? Yeah. I really enjoy talking to people. I would like you.
Teddy Ruxpin, the storytelling bear, comes with illustrated book and cassette from Worlds of Wonder.
And then my friend was there, and he's like, no, it's a tape player. And then I started thinking, you could put like tapes in this, and Teddy Ruxpin would just talk like what was in the tape.
It's funny that you say that, because the very first time I ever saw Teddy Ruxpin, I was in high school. I was probably a sophomore in high school, and my buddy had one in his closet, and we put like Metallica's Black Album in it, and that's the first time I ever saw Teddy Ruxpin. They were jamming out to Unforgiven.
So Teddy Ruxpin sat there and just lip sync to the.
It was amazing, and I mean that's some technology right there too. Listen, Teddy Ruxpin, when that came on the market, that commercial, I thought for sure you were getting a literal android bear that was going to talk.
Yeah, like you could have a robot friend that looked like a bear.
Yeah.
Wow. What an age difference, because I never thought that about Teddy Ruxpin.
Well, you are.
You're
37 years older than us.
Oh, you put a cassette in and he talks to the cassette. Oh, okay.
I never picked up on that. I was just too naive at that age.
It was in the commercial.
Hey, listen, when you're a kid, that stuff goes over your head. You're just like,
absolutely,
that's a talking robot bear.
I bought into the magic. I don't care.
Yeah, me too. I thought it was going to be like having Showbiz Pizza in your living room with the talking. So,
I have a quick,
what other tech was rocking?
I have a quick Showbiz Pizza story.
Sure. Sure.
Because
wait, now hear me out. Showbiz Pizza was the same thing as like Chuck E. Cheese, right?
Showbiz Pizza was yes, and it was later bought by Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh, is that right? I only had Chuck E. Cheese in the America.
Okay.
So.
The first time we went, it was around Christmas time, and they had added Santa Claus to the
band.
Well, he wasn't in the band; he sat over on the side.
Was he a robot Santa?
Yeah, he was a robot Santa, and so he was. The idea was that they called Santa, right? So Santa was supposed to pick up the phone and talk to them.
Yeah.
Well, his hand missed the headset. So he was like this. So and I was like, what is going on? Why is he talking into his hand? I mean, it was really confusing because he's like,
and he didn't have the phone.
No, he didn't. His hand had missed the phone. So when he finally, like one of the employees snuck up and put the phone on the cradle so that the next time he reached down, he grabbed it. And it was like, oh, he's supposed to have a phone in his hand.
That's ridiculous. Okay.
So anyway, that's kind of not really.
Do they still have those robot shows at those places like Chuck E. Cheese?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, Chuck E. Cheese still does the robot shows. Actually, it's funny. My daughter she's just all about like 1980s stuff. And she is actually... And she's really good at art. And she has started drawing the Rockafire Explosion, which is the band from Showbiz Pizza.
Really?
Like doing these really detailed drawings of the animatronic gorilla and dog. And she's like obsessed. And there's a warehouse here in Orlando where a guy has acquired a full set of these animatronics. And he has repaired them. And apparently you can still schedule a show with him and go watch a Showbiz Pizza show
Really?
at this guy's warehouse. So I'm trying to set that up so Hannah can see it. But
is she a Five Nights at Freddy fan? It's like maybe that's part of drawing that younger crowd in, because it is kind of like, you know what I'm talking about?
You know what?
Five Nights at
Yes,
Freddy?
I do know what you're talking about.
It's kind of that same concept, right?
Yeah, but yeah, she's obsessed. Next stop is a Rock-afire Explosion T-shirt, which
man.
yeah. So
Good for
anyway,
you.
man, that was a. But hey, that's technology from the '80s that fascinated us as kids.
Well, I got one. I have to. This was something I wanted really bad, and it's like completely not sophisticated at all. And you probably don't have any recollection of this. They used to sell
Was
these
it a cotton gin?
Yes, a cotton gin. We were all about.
Was it
sorting.
a washboard?
They used to sell these sunglasses, and they had like a little red light in them, so it looked like you had like glowing eyes when you put them on. It was just this tiny little, and I wanted a pair so badly. But I remember too, I also, not only that I wanted because I thought it looked cool.
Something sounds really familiar about that.
I was curious as to like, how is the light?
Googling this.
How does that blind you with this little pinpoint light?
I'm trying to think.
Right?
Like,
where
was that
you're-
like in 78, like the late 70s that was available?
Gosh, I don't remember. I just remember.
It sounds so familiar. It's something about that sounds familiar.
It
You
was
know,
just-
not that this is technology, but you have me
well,
thinking back
at that time it was, because that was like, I mean,
the little lights. They're not LED lights.
Yeah,
They're just
back
by
then
burning
that
your
was
eyes
like,
out.
That was like, oh my gosh,
You have a mini
lights
incandescent bulb right by your eye.
in the sunglasses, and it looks like you have glowing eyes. I wanted a pair of those so bad, and I never got them. But I just remember there was like a kid in the ad. He's got the sunglasses on, and I'm like, I want that joy too.
Man, you have to find
that's
that.
real tech. That's real tech. But what that brought back my memory was just, remember the Hulk muscles you could get? Remember like the muscles in like the late 70s? You could actually get like this thing
Like,
that
yeah.
inflates that becomes like Hulk muscles.
Yeah.
I always wanted the Hulk.
It's
muscle.
well,
I didn't get 'em.
Recently with the rise of the Avengers movies, they've come out with the padding and the giant.
Yeah, I got the hands.
The
I got the hands
fists.
for my son, but
Wow,
yeah.
Matt, you could still get that Hulk physique. Just keep eating your nutrient paste and taking your vitamins.
It's true.
Okay, so for me, something that was positively magical was the VCR.
Yeah,
And-
that's true.
that's the big one.
Marty, shh, you'll scare the fish. But we're missing the big football game. Relax. My VHS home video recorder is taping it right now. Terrific. Watch. Terrific. But suppose it's over 3 hours. Relax. Panasonic VHS tapes up to 4 hours of sports, movie specials on one cassette. Wow. This VHS is for me. You caught the whole game. Best catch of the day. Yeah.
VHS, the 4-hour system from Panasonic and other leading companies.
You know what we would do? We would actually rent the VCR with like my dad would go to Showbiz Video, not Showbiz Pizza, Showbiz Video, and he would rent this VCR that came in like this case, and we would rent that and a couple of movies for the weekend. And in the early 80s, that just seemed like magic. Like the fact that you could have a movie to watch whenever you wanted to.
Yeah.
And then there were people who actually had these mystical machines in their homes, and they could record stuff off TV, which completely blew my mind.
Yeah, people can't really appreciate, like, if you didn't have a VCR, to know somebody that had one,
Mm-hmm.
it was like, it's like when we'll talk about it later, I'm sure, when the first CD recorder came out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can burn a CD. It's like when you could record something off television.
Yeah.
Changed the world. Changed the world.
Without a doubt. I just remember when we finally got one, my dad figured out how to make copies. So he would still rent the VCR But even after we had a VCR, and we would
double it up,
the punch and crunch method of pirating tapes, and I hope no one sends the FBI to my father's house.
Been looking for him for years.
Yeah, they're like, he's the one who put Back to the Future and Top Gun on the same VHS tape at 6 hours speed.
The EP speed.
Yeah, man. So that just opened up.
Or SLP. It was EP also.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
I forgot all about that.
But, man, you if you wanted the quality, you recorded at SP.
SP, that's right.
That is where that was 2 hours speed, and that's what it was all about, really.
Yeah.
But man, no, the VCR, and I remember our friend Brian the collector, he was the first guy I knew who had one, and he's the first guy I knew who had a copy of Star Wars. And to go and just have Star Wars whenever you wanted to watch it,
it's unbelievable.
That made my head spin.
Yeah.
I remember my mom sold Avon, so we actually got a VCR pretty early, which was unusual because we weren't exactly rolling in dough. So for us to have something like that, it was a top loader too, I believe.
Oh, the top loaders.
Yeah. And I remember one night, this was when I was in middle school, I was recording one of the Police Academy movies. And, I would just hit play record and you'd let it go and just, because go to bed. It was before timer. Well, I think I don't even sure if it had.
Well, you just let it record.
Yeah. So I found out, not only did I get Police Academy, I got
Emmanuel Visits Paris.
Hot Dog the movie. I don't know if you've ever seen Hot Dog the movie, but for a middle schooler, yeah, that was a movie that got watched.
A lot for your hot dog there.
Yeah.
I remember I was living in Connecticut at the time. I think it was like 1982 or 83. And we got a top loader VCR. And I don't know where my dad was getting videos from. I don't think they had Blockbusters, but there was somewhere you could go and get videos. And I remember he came home one time and we were going to watch a movie at night, the whole family. And he had gotten Android, 1982's Android. You've probably never seen it or heard of it.
I've heard of it.
And it's forgettable, but memorable for other reasons. So Android, he got this because obviously we're into Star Wars, we're into Star Trek, it's sci-fi. So Android has to be a safe, easy choice, right? This movie was like 90% boobs. And I was like 8 years old. And like my dad, we're all sitting on the couch. I think the fire was going. And we put, that's it. That's
is that Persis Kambata?
So we put that movie on it. And yeah,
how far into it did you get?
I don't remember, but enough to see a few boobs. And then my dad panicked. But
that was always the worst when that happened. It was...
With your parents in the room?
Man, okay. Here, I remember watching...
And that was usually automatic banishment. Oh, yeah, go in the other room.
That's it. I think we're done here. Yeah, I remember the original Teen Wolf, Matt, as we were talking.
Yeah.
Now, there's some... It's
pretty close.
It's a PG movie, but there's some PG-13...
Yeah, it's like a locker room scene that gets pretty steamy. Or no, they're in the dressing room.
When
right?
the blonde starts taking off all her clothes.
Yeah, that's when he's doing the play. Wolf out.
Yeah, Wolf it. And there's, my mom and dad and little sister were all watching this. And then, of course, my mom, when she starts taking off her clothes, she's like, "Yo, Carl, what is this?" and she goes, "Is this an R-rated movie?" And that's just the worst when you're a kid, because you're enjoying the movie and you're like, yeah, man, this
What
girl.
do you say? You're like, then you're frozen.
And so me and my sister are just like looking at the floor, embarrassed. But I remember that watching Teen Wolf specifically. But obviously they didn't show any too much. But my mom.
They actually teased that scene in the trailer on TV, and it came out almost exact same time as Back to the Future.
Yes.
And I think they were in the theater at the exact same time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, they had filmed Teen Wolf like a year earlier. It just sat on the shelf.
But it was released almost at the same time. And I wound up seeing Back to the Future instead of Teen Wolf because my mom was familiar with that one quick little scene that she saw on TV. She's like, oh no, we're not going to see that. We're going to see Back to the Future. And I was like disappointed, but
well,
it was a win, of course.
Of course.
By seeing it, but
gosh, man, yeah. But hey, the VCR. Tell you what,
I'll throw something out there. In the early days of computing, we had a Commodore 128, which was a step up from the C64, the Commodore 64. And
well, what does that mean exactly? I don't know.
The 128 was like 128 kilobytes.
Yes,
it was like the memory is nothing. It's amazing, but it could play all the games that the C64 had, plus a few extra that obviously the C64 couldn't. So we had that, but besides the games, Commodore had a proprietary pre-internet connectivity program called Quantum Link, Q-Link for short. And it was real basic internet is really what it was. And if you had a modem and you had a Commodore 64 128, you could connect on this network and go into real primitive chat rooms, real primitive shopping. I don't even know how the shopping worked. And you had email, which was unique. And this was back in, the late 80s. So 87, 88, this existed. So it was really basic, like real primitive stuff, but very, revolutionary at the time. Except you paid per minute when you were on it. And that got very expensive very quick.
Well, another thing they had too, because I actually had that 128 as well. And they had the first, well, I don't know if it was the first, but it was one of the first, I don't even know if it was one. Anyway, it was an online multiplayer game called Trade Wars. Oh. And our friend Chris, Jared, our mutual friend Chris from Knoxville.
Yes.
Chris E. Yeah, he was huge on it. And it was like you flew, I don't think it didn't have, I think it was all text based. I don't think there was any graphics to it. And it was, you flew around this galaxy with other people and you could attack their ships and you trade it and stuff like that. And that was the very first, what are they called? MMOs?
MMOs.
That's crazy, right?
It was the first one of those that, and I tried to play a little bit, but it just.
I remember in the back of that 128, which is like the keyboard and computer were one thing, and then you connected it to a monitor. There was a port in the back for a modem, a plug-in modem.
Yep.
And I used to ask my dad to bring home computer catalogs, like computer shopping catalogs, and dream about like these super machines. And like you turn the page and like you didn't want the 300 baud modem. You wanted like the 1200 or the 3600 baud modem if you could get it. But like I think we had like a 1200 and it was like that was like a Corvette, but like you still wanted the Ferrari. You were like drooling over like a centerfold of a 3600 baud modem, which if you've never seen an old 80s modem, it was like a block that you plugged into the back of your machine. Yes. And then you put the telephone line in it, and it made a like, great noise that we're probably listening to right now. And that iconic modem noise, which it's gone from society. It's amazing how much of a part of my childhood that noise was, and now it's gone now. But that modem was a piece of technology that you get in your house. It wasn't like the movies. Like the movies had like that old like 1983 modem with like the phone would have to plug into it. And I always imagine that, but like to get this little thing to make your computer talk to other people was like magic. And I always thought I could like change my grade somehow by hacking into the
school,
like
Ferris Bueller or something.
No one understood how you could, but like you knew you could if you had that modem, you could do it.
Well, or you could be like Jeff Bridges in Tron and somehow get sucked in to the grid. And there would be a laser gun behind you that would, while you were typing on your computer, would shoot you and turn you into a wireframe model.
Digitize you.
Yes. But alas, that's not the way it is.
But that's interesting you bring that up though, Matt, because thinking about that was like your first dip into the internet, and it's just how it just has completely it's just a completely different thing now. Like it's just so casual and so expansive. Like you could literally do anything on it now almost.
It's mind-boggling what it can do. But it was at the time when you just had this small little section of it to yourself, you still thought it was the most amazing thing in the world too.
Yeah.
It's like I'm talking to people that are in like, across the country right now, and it's just
it's like
amazing.
It's like magic. Yeah, my first computer was a Commodore 64.
Yeah,
the venerable Commodore 64, and it was
classic.
It was pretty much just used for games. That's pretty much it. We didn't really do the online thing at that point, so we did print. We printed like these Remember Print Shop? It was called Print.
Yeah.
And you'd have print big banners on the dot matrix.
Like everyone wanted banners for some reason.
Yeah, I know. And it'd be these crappy black and white.
And then they had icons or like characters you could pick.
Yeah.
I'll take the Viking and I'll put him on my banner.
Yes.
Everyone wanted banners from it.
Oh yes. Man.
Yeah. Those
Commodore
dot matrix
64.
printers, man.
And the
amazing.
They took forever to print because it was just printing. It was going back and forth.
One line at a time.
Well, the worst part was if you did print out that mega banner, now you have you have it printed. Now you have to be careful because now you have to carefully peel off the side strips of paper to feed it through the printer without ripping your banner. And then you have to be careful as you're tearing those off not to accidentally start to tear one of the pieces of paper apart because they're all attached. You had to like deperforate your 8.5 by 11 sheets.
Yes.
So you get this big banner and then you like stressing out trying to get it all perfect and not having a sheet rip off or you tear into it, but the side strips.
That reminds me of a story of when I had a roommate when I was in school. My roommate worked overnights and I had a book report due. He was in his room sleeping, and I had to print out my book report. I had like every door closed. I could
take like 3 hours,
and I was like, put blankets against so he hopefully wouldn't hear the.
Oh, that's great. Oh man.
Or it would feed wrong. The paper would feed wrong. It'd be like one dot off on one side, and then eventually it would just start to
it
eat
would,
itself.
Yeah, and it'd get all jammed up and
you have to like get in there and do surgery on your dot matrix printer. The struggle, man, it was legit. It was real.
It's just so easy now. You just pick your phone up. If you need something printed, you just print it from your phone. And if your printer's in another state or another room, it doesn't matter. It just prints it out. I'm going to talk about Matt alluded to it a little earlier. Compact discs, and
huge,
and we can of course roll this into the CDRs as they became prominent. But I was a very late adopter of CDs. When did you guys get your first CD player? Do you remember that?
Oh, I remember what made me finally get it. I remember this was, I guess, my freshman year of college, so it would have been 90, 91. It would have been 90 because, I'm a big, huge Iron Maiden fan, and I had all their cassettes. But I always knew that they had released all these singles, but the singles were available only on LP, and they were only available overseas. Well, then 1990 was their 10-year anniversary, so they re-released all their singles on CD. And I remember I went to Turtles Records with a couple friends of mine, and I was going through the Iron Maiden selection, and I just started seeing all these CDs, and I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And it was that point I was like, well, I'm getting a CD player because I'm buying these, and I have to play them on something. So it would have been like 90, probably 91 before I finally got a CD player.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's about right for me too. In fact, we could actually talk about stereo systems anyway, because like back in like the 80s and 90s, early 90s, it wasn't just about like, it wasn't like a CD player. It was like components that you would buy.
Yeah.
And like you would see giant stacks of a whole stereo component system in people's homes, from like 3 equalizers, 3 EQs to the double cassette deck to the CD player to to all kinds, to the amps. It'd be a whole stack. Yeah, and that'd be part of people's homes.
They have the turntable usually.
The turntable, and you would kind of like, that was like you'd really be jealous of people. You'd be like, oh man, and then you have the giant speakers.
Yes, the floor standing.
Yeah, I had some KLH speakers. They weren't great, but I was like really proud of them. I thought they were great. But like I had like, it was not that cool. It was it was a turntable, which I didn't want, built into a cassette deck like unit, and it came with like 2 little speakers. And then I had
one of those.
And then I had to buy a CD player. It was an Onkyo CD player.
Onkyo.
Then I put it on top of it, and but it worked, and it was great. And I
remember Kmart had the sound design.
Yeah, that's right.
Sound design. That's
Sound
right.
design.
And at the time, Emerson was exclusive to Target.
But yeah, I think it was like 90 or 91. I got a CD player, and it was great. It was amazing.
See, I didn't pull the trigger on CDs because I kept buying cassettes because I had a cassette player in my car. I understood CDs sounded better and was easier to, skip around and everything. But
right.
For me, cassettes were fine until they released the Star Wars Anthology CD set. It was
the rectangular box.
Yes,
set?
It was four discs, and it had all kinds of unreleased music on it. Had a full bonus disc of unreleased stuff, and I was like, well, I have no choice. I have to pull the trigger on this, and so it was 94 when that came out, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm doing it.
Yeah, it's kind of late in the game.
Yeah.
But, you mentioned that you had the, cassette in your car. Portable CD players were game-changing, too. Like the portable CD player was a complete... I mean, it was, first off, portable CD players were huge.
Like a stereo system, almost.
No, I'm talking about like a portable, like Walkman,
Oh, the portable?
They were Discman.
The Discman.
Yeah.
That thing was amazing. But it was like, it had the extra bass feature.
Oh,
and all
yeah,
that
the
garbage. X-Bass, but like it was clunky. It would skip, even though it had buffering technology. It would
what I
skip.
got? I got the thing you could
car adapter.
Well, no, it was like it kind of floated. It was on.
I know what you're talking about.
To keep it from skipping.
And I bought like a mount that I stuck to my dash that I would put the CD player on.
Mm-hmm.
But the mount kept popping off. I guess whatever the adhesive wasn't holding. This was in my S10 truck, so I found if I just took the mount part and set it on the floor right next to the gear shift, it worked perfect. The thing hardly ever skipped.
But you had a cassette player, right, in your car? You had the adapter.
Yeah, I had to have that.
What was that adapter that everybody had? What was that key piece of technology, that crossover piece that you needed? What did it look like, Jared?
It looked like a cassette. It was this sometimes metal, sometimes plastic, and it had an audio cord coming from it, and you'd plug it into your cassette deck, and through that you could listen to your CDs.
And that changed the whole world there, because if you had a car like we all did with just cassette player in it, you're like out of luck. I mean, they didn't have CD players in cars. Like it's like unheard of. But you could play CDs all of a sudden, and that was amazing. Which also meant that you had a book in your car of like 1,005 CDs.
Book. Oh my gosh!
Like you'd always get upset when your friend would put a CD in against another CD, and scratch it, and you'd be like so mad. You'd be like, "Don't touch my CDs."
Yeah, stay out of there.
But it was like a massive, like 18-pound book of CDs.
Yes.
And at first, you want to put all like the labels from the inside of the CD deck in there. Then you gave up on that, and it just became like, after like 3 years, it was like 37 CDs in one pocket.
They were all, half of them warped from heat, from being left in your car. I remember I had a 92 Nissan Sentra. My good friend Alan, his father, his name is Herb. A friend of his was junking his, he had the same model car I did. It was a 92 Sentra. But this Sentra had a factory CD player in it. And he managed to get that off of his friend, and he installed it in my Sentra.
Nice.
So, in the mid-90s, I had a Nissan. You know, it perfectly matched with everything on my console. I had the cassette player, and then I had the Nissan CD player. And when that thing, I tell you what, when I got that thing, I thought I was driving a Rolls Royce.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I was just like, man, I've got a cassette player here and a CD player mounted into the dash. I don't have to carry around my Discman anymore. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I can't remember the first time. I don't even think my Chevy Malibu had a CD player. Maybe it did. I don't think it did. I think it was still cassette when I got that. I don't think I had a CD player until like later, man.
Maybe when you had
I don't think
your Expedition.
I think the same thing because I don't think my Beretta had a CD player in it. I know it didn't, and
then you got a Civic, right?
The Civic, I had to have the CD player put in.
Okay, yeah, because at that point, whenever I'd get a new car, I'd go to Best Buy and just have a
What's funny is I just bought my Kia Soul, a 2021, and it doesn't have a CD player.
No.
Of course, yeah. My car doesn't have one. I mean, who would have ever guessed, first off, what a smartphone can, like what the smartphone in your pocket, the capability of what it does and how it can expand your life compared to like when I was a kid is just like, if you could go back 30 years and show somebody a smartphone now, I mean, you might as well think they're from like 200 years in the future, what it can do.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, to stay on the CD, to go what you were, I think the next step as far as CD is when you could start basically making your own
huge
mix
huge
CDs.
I remember the very first CD I ever had somebody make for me. I was in college, and we were over at somebody's house, and somebody mentioned they had a CD burner, and I think Aerosmith was playing. I'm like, oh, that's a great album. I got to pick it up sometime. They're like, you want to pick it up? I'm like, 2 seconds later, handed me a CD. I'm like, what is this? They're like, it's the Aerosmith album. They just burned it for me. I'm like, blew my mind. I'm like, thank you. I take it like it's a holy wafer. I'm like, that's amazing. But that was unreal. I remember
that was because when you made cassette copies, the copies were
they would degrade.
From each time you made a copy off of it.
Oh yeah,
it didn't sound as good. In CDs, you were getting pretty much.
I know there's no loss.
Yeah, that's funny because people don't realize that like people might hear that, but like you don't get that when you had a cassette on magnetic tape, every time you dub it and make a copy, it gets worse and worse and worse until finally it doesn't even sound right. And then God help you if you ever leave that cassette in the heat. Because then it gets completely warped, and cassettes were amazing and a mess at the same time.
Well, I was going to say, the cool thing about making your own CDs also was, like I was going back, I had these Iron Maiden CDs that had like a song from the album and then one or two B-sides. Mm-hmm. And then if I wanted to listen to the B-sides, I'd have to keep swapping out the CDs. Well, I could just make a CD that had all the songs I wanted from the singles.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was like Jared said, you make that CD, you feel like you've like built a space shuttle or something. You're like, oh my gosh, I could listen to these songs.
Yes.
Without changing CDs.
Pretty amazing.
Remember when people would have like the 50 disc changer in their trunk?
I had one of those.
Yeah.
That was
great though.
They scratched up your CDs. I found that out later.
I mean, listen, if you don't know what that is, if you're listening, and these big disc changers is the equivalency of having like your smartphone with like all your music on it. You would load up your trunk with like 10 or 12 CDs, and all of a sudden you would have like 50 songs at your fingertips that you could on good radios program kind of like a playlist.
Sure.
And it was great. I mean, you were like king of the world when you had a CD changer.
But you also had something the size of a big briefcase
in
your trunk.
Also, you also got real sick of those CDs that you chose real quick. Like there was like one you were okay with, but then you're like, I just don't want to go back there and change it.
Yeah,
but you know what those were? They were great for were trips. Because when I was living in Nashville, going back and forth to Knoxville and Nashville, that thing was quite handy. I would just load up what I knew I'd want to listen to on the 3 or 4 hour drive.
Mm-hmm. But pretty great though. CDs were a major game changer right there.
I still have some of mine.
I still have a lot of my film scores. I haven't gotten rid of those, but But yeah, it's been a while since I purchased an actual CD.
Man, you think about it. When's the last time you bought a CD?
I bought the last Iron Maiden Double Live CD. I still get Iron Maiden. I still buy those CDs.
And I bought the last the Star Wars scores on physical.
When did Death Magnetic come out with Metallica?
Shoot. I don't know,
2004
2006 or 7.
That's the last CD I bought.
Wow.
That's the last CD I ever bought. And that was a major industry. I mean, there were like, what was it, Specs
Did you buy
music?
the one that had the cover that had the hole all the way
Yeah.
through it? That was so
Yeah, I
annoying.
got that.
That was the most annoying. Because it was like the lyrics were all like, you couldn't read the lyrics because the stupid
know.
hole through
Yeah,
the.
that's right.
You're like, why would you do this?
Well, actually, remember CDs when you first got them? When CDs first hit the market, they had this. It was a double-sized box. Do you remember that? It wasn't like
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
the square.
yeah,
They were tall.
yeah.
It was
Yeah,
a tall
They
rectangular
come in the
box.
the sleeves.
Yes.
Yeah, and I remember getting like Guns N' Roses Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, and I thought those were the coolest things in the world, having those two boxes. But they got rid of those. It went to like obviously the rapper. They got rid of those boxes.
Well, yeah, you gotta think how much money were they spending on?
Oh my
those?
God.
Yeah,
What
it was
was
just
the
wasted
point?
because you just like tear that in half, and you'd be throwing away a 12-inch piece of cardboard.
I'm not quite sure what the purpose was. Maybe it was like for shelving. They would it would insert into shelves.
Well, I
so it
remember
wouldn't fall
that way
over.
you could flip through them like in
Is
a
that why-
store.
But they replaced it with the plastic things they'd have to take them out of when you bought them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, CDs, man. Hey, listen, shopping for CDs was a fun time.
And I'll tell
I
you
used to
another,
get a
talking
kick out
about
of
the
it.
portable CD players, the technology on those things got so much better where you could, I remember the last one I owned, I could put a CD in and work out at the gym and walk around with that thing on me like it was I even had like a strap, like a belt that you slip the CD player into. You could walk around and
You could drop them and they wouldn't
gym
skip.
and they wouldn't skip. I mean, it was
It
just
had a
amazing.
continual buffering that was just groundbreaking at the time. Finally you could jog with one, you could do stuff and it wouldn't skip, which was like, the major problem with those. But yeah, portable CD players were great.
But
They're great.
to take that a step further, I remember the first time I saw an iPod. I was like, wow, that like changed the game. My friend Adam had a first generation, and he's like, hey, look, man, I think at that time he goes, I got 150 albums on this thing. And he would flip the wheel around, and it was all organized, and I was just like, what is this sorcery?
Well, that's
And-
when Windows and Macintosh, and Apple, I should say, took a divergent path where Macintosh banked on hardware and Windows banked on software. And, that those are two very diametrically different positions in the market at the time. Bill Gates had said the future of software, and Apple was saying, well, it has to also be functional hardware. And I mean, iPod, you had, first off, an iPod was cool. It was sleek. It was different. It was ergonomic. It made sense.
I think
It
that's
was
one of the
intuitive.
first products where the design was part of the
And it just
appeal.
continued on down that line. It was the intuitivity, is that a word? I don't know.
Intuitiveness?
The intuitiveness of what Apple created. Down the way, my son, who at the time when he finally turned 1 year old was able to work an iPhone just by picking it up and fooling around with it. That's how intuitive the technology was that they were creating. But it was also beautiful technology. It was nice to look at. Felt good in your hand. Not to mention it was groundbreaking because there was the whole MP3 kind of like foot race going on at that time where everyone in had a different MP3 player and they all had different kinds of technology and some were proprietary with certain formats and Apple came out way on top.
What was the Microsoft version?
The Zune.
Zune.
Yeah.
That was it.
What did they feature? They feature that in Guardians of the Galaxy, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
second one.
He goes, he got a Zune. Yeah, like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Man. So
Everyone under the brother had had a different MP3 player back in the
the first one I
early
got
2000s.
was a cheapy one,
Of course.
and I was like, after using that cheapy one, I'm like, yeah, I need to get a good one.
But like was it the iPod that had like the massive storage?
Yes. I think the biggest one they made was like 260 gigabytes.
Yeah, I had that.
Huge.
I still have that one.
It was like a hard drive.
Yeah,
Basically, you walk
that's
around
what
with a
it
hard
is.
drive that you could play music out of.
Yeah.
And it was unbelievable.
I actually just sold my last iPod.
How much did you sell it for?
I got $100 for the 260.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm wondering if I should put it online and sell it.
No,
But I'm like
people are buying those. And actually, if you look on a site like Etsy, people are refurbishing these things and like reselling them as, you know, it's taking a like, hey, you don't need the internet to stream, you know, just they're sort of like, hey, you know, what's old is new again.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Put all your favorite songs on this and don't worry about the internet. That kind of thing.
Well, you know, one thing, you know, we've kind of talked about this in the past on the podcast a little bit, but you know, maybe we'll finish off this discussion by when I think back of like what people would completely not even think about these days, but going from a corded phone to a cordless phone was major too back in the day.
Well, yeah.
Oh my gosh, and plus the speed of it. I mean, I remember cordless phones were like huge. Whoa. You mean I'm not tethered to the wall?
I mean, I could walk to my driveway.
This is amazing. All I have to do is just pull out this 12-foot antenna.
What?
And then they had the flexible ones so they wouldn't break because everyone was always breaking the antennas.
Always.
Yes. Yeah, that was a game changer. You know, being able to walk around wherever you wanted in the house. Always keep the handset with you. Forget to put it on the charger.
Oh yeah, if you
mom would get pissed off. Yeah, I did that a lot. I had to have the handset, and I'd be talking, and I'd just hang it up and throw it on my bed, and then it'd sit there for 7 hours. Like, where's the phone? It doesn't work. So, I think we always kept a corded phone in the house, at least when I was growing up. Like, we had a couple of cordless, but we always had the hardwired with the line on it.
I remember in my bedroom it was a corded phone that had it's like an 18-foot spiral cord on it, which became basically a 3-inch knot of 18-foot cord that you tried to pick up the phone, and all it was is you're picking the whole unit up.
Well, okay, so yeah, the corded phone was big, but you know what else was big was the double line.
Huge, yeah.
Because that was the thing that was annoying is you would try to call someone and you couldn't get through because it was busy, and you would try to call and you'd be like, burk, burk, burk. Or like my mom would be on the phone with one of her friends, and I'd be waiting on a phone call, and it'd be like,
come on.
I remember it's just that, what was it, like a double beep or something?
Yeah, beep, beep.
Right.
And you'd click the
hang on, I got another call.
The thing.
Hello? Oh, hi, Mama. What? Jimmy's lost. Mama, you check the toy department. Hold on, Mama. That's the call waiting signal. I'll be right back. Hello? Mama? Oh, Jimmy. Grandma's lost.
With call waiting, your loved ones get something much nicer than a busy signal. They get you. Call Bella, Pennsylvania, 1-800-462-2880.
Then that was big.
So when they got the call waiting, you have to click what do they call that? I don't even know what they call it.
You just click the
thing that hangs up the phone. You have to click it once. But if you don't do it right, you hang up on everybody.
Yes.
So you couldn't hold it too long.
If you held it too long, everyone's gone. But it was
like a real art to getting it right. And it was always a 50-50 with me.
But then Star 69 came out.
Right.
That was a big deal.
Right.
And then caller ID, where you'd have those little
huge
digital boxes that would show the names of the people. And I mean, you were like, oh my gosh, this is like, and that was like the first time you were able to like avoid phone calls.
Yeah.
You look at there and you'd be like, ooh, I don't want to talk to them.
I mean, that's something we take for granted nowadays. We just, we look at our cell phones and we're like, I'm not talking to him, or, decline. As if we don't recognize, 99% of the time, if I don't recognize the number, I just don't answer.
Right.
So, and to think that just 30 years ago, we were just blindly picking up the phone and talking to whoever was there.
Well, I'll tell you another thing I miss. I really miss this. And this is something that changed with the smartphones, is you would actually leave your house to get away from your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, well, I'm not here if they call. Oh, well, and that was,
man.
I remember, even go before call waiting, answer machines. I mean, that was like a big deal.
Yeah.
Remember the
huge.
commercial? I don't know if we've talked about this before, but the funny songs you could have as an answer machine.
Oh, yeah, they would sell the cassette.
Nobody's home.
Yes. Oh, man.
Hey ho, are you sorry that I'm not at home? But when I get the message on my telephone, you'll be the first one on my list.
Crazy Calls, a tape of 7 different songs and funny recordings for answering machines.
I am very sorry that I'm not at home to take your call.
Only $14.95.
When I will get right back to you. Leave your message at the tone.
Give someone the gift of gab for their answering machine.
Calling a friend. What you've actually done is bought a one-way ticket to the answering machine zone.
Nobody's home. Nobody's home. I'm glad you called, but I'm not home. But I'll be back before too long.
Crazy Calls, a tape of 7 different songs and funny recordings for only $14.95.
Wait for the beat. You gotta leave your name. You gotta leave your number.
To order,
Wait for the beat.
Call 1-800-351-5200. Call 1-800-351-5200.
Crazy Calls.
Crazy Calls.
I'm going to listen to that right after this show.
I can't remember the other ones. Wait for the beep. That was it, the rap one.
Yeah.
Wait for the beep.
Oh, man. I got to listen to that. You got to send the link. But I like reminiscing with you guys about old tech, and we could probably do this all day. We'll probably have to revisit this subject sometime soon anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's about all we got tonight for the...
Real quick, I'm going to promote another thing to watch if you want to talk about something that's got a really good handle on the type of thing we're talking about. Is Funny or Die did a parody of 24 with that type of technology where Jack Bauer is trying to
oh, that's funny.
Yeah, and they're on the phone, they're on the internet, and George picks up the phone while they're on the internet and cuts them off,
disconnects them.
That's pretty good.
So I recommend that. It's a very, very funny little skit that kind of is reminiscent of what we were discussing.
Well, I hope you enjoyed watching our podcast, and feel free to ever knock on our tubes and pay us a visit.
Yes.
But if you're going to pay a visit, why don't you pay a visit to thehyperspace.net? Come on, everyone needs some shirts, some merchandise. You need a coffee mug? You drink coffee? Drink our coffee. Drink with our mug. But if nothing else, share the podcast. Tell people, tell your friends. Send it along because, we're the only podcast in the universe on these interwebs. And if we're going to catch fire, we need your help. But you can always join us on this channel to watch us talk about our favorite stuff. And feel free to always to subscribe on your favorite podcatcher. And listen to us. And again, share the podcast. We've got a lot to talk about. So, have a good night. Have a good day. We'll see you in the 25th century.
Welcome in, podcast pioneers.
Wait,
to
pause.
Son of a bitch.
Pause. Mike, not that it matters, but you're wearing an Iron Maiden shirt. We don't have any non-logo shirts that we can wear. We did talk about this.
Shirt.
You can't have logos on this, or it's going to get flagged.
People wear logos all the time.
Why risk it?
Look, the thing is, he doesn't own any shirts without Iron Maiden on them.
You know you can't live without this content, so subscribe to the Hyperspace Podcasting in the 25th Century. Follow us on social media, leave us a review, and join us next time as we take you into the 25th century.